Welcome everyone to the Mail Fuzz TV News Podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor.
Yeah, it's nice to finally have a day off.
Yeah, round of applause, trumpets.
I did 8 days in a row, and so I'm tired.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And if I didn't swap some shifts around in the next week, I was going to have 10 days in a row coming up, which I did not want to do.
Understandable. TV podcast, of course. We're going to talk about pilots, renewals, cancellations, new series orders, all that kind of thing. I don't have much TV to review this week actually, because Last of Us just finished. The finale review went up, last week. Nice and neat though. That's kind of been replaced by season 2 of Yellow Jackets, which is coming this coming Sunday night, Monday. Depending on your. So.
I know. I'm obviously behind on TV. I'm still catching up from when I was moving, so I've still got like half of Last of Us to watch. I've only watched the first episode of Mandalorian. I am up to date on Ted Lasso though.
I am not. There's only been like one though, right?
The second one was yesterday.
Oh, was it? Okay.
This, I think.
I might just wait until it's almost done and watch the season as quickly.
It's one of the few shows that me and Paige watch together. Like, we'll both wait and sit down and watch it together. Yes,
because the relationship's already broken, so you spend very little time together as much as possible. Yeah.
No, we just spend time doing other things. Yeah.
Like what, knitting? You do a lot of knitting together?
I don't. She does cross stitch a lot though.
Okay.
Which is not so far removed from knitting.
Jigsaw puzzles? Do you do a lot of jigsaw puzzles together?
Occasionally, yeah. I've got a whole board game and jigsaw cupboard.
I don't know what my joke is here. Something like you're a pair of like old 80-year-olds or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with jigsaws and board games.
I'm not saying there is. Except Monopoly. F that game.
Oh, no. Yeah, I had this argument at work with someone the other day who likes Monopoly. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you?
It's terrible.
Everyone likes Monopoly. It's badly designed on purpose.
Monopoly is a game that seems fine when it's the only game your family has, because for some reason every family had a copy of Monopoly. But as soon as you actually learn or see even anyone play a better board game, you suddenly understand, wait, what? Are you supposed to feel excitement when you play a game? What?
Monopoly is intentionally designed to be not fun.
I know, it started off as a satire of capitalism in its origins. But here's the thing about Monopoly, is that even if you win, you're not happy you won at the end of Monopoly. You're just thankful that it's over.
Yeah, because you've been sat there for like 64 hours.
Like even winning's not joyous. It's terrible.
It's a boring game.
It's a terrible game.
I definitely... I do have a version of Monopoly in the cupboard, I'm pretty sure, because who doesn't, right?
Checkers is better than Monopoly. At least Checkers is a little bit of skill. There's something happening.
Yeah, you hop over the counters. That's kind of fun and satisfying when you get to the other side and you get to double up.
It's simple stuff.
Yeah.
So why we're on a board game tangent, I don't know.
I blame you.
It was my fault. I went down a weird path making fun of you. But yes, welcome everyone to the TV podcast. We're here. So last episode we did on a weird day. We recorded like a Monday night, so we didn't do one at the weekend like normal. But this is obviously for this weekend. So the news goes back to Tuesday last week when I was looking for it. Not actually a great ton, even though it was like a week and a half's worth technically of stuff that could be here. But
you get these periods, a little bit of a lull here and there.
It's just a bit quieter. But that's okay. We'll get into it. Maybe there'll be more board game tangents should things come up. All right, let's get into renewals and cancellations then. So that's out of the way. Some renewals. Fox have renewed Accused for season 2.
I don't recall that one.
We'll move on because I don't know.
I mean, it's a bland Fox show. Probably, let's be honest.
They've also renewed Alert Missing Persons Unit for season 2.
Oh, I can imagine what that is. I don't remember ever talking about it, but I know exactly what it is just from that title.
Peacock have renewed Bel Air for season 3. Obviously, the reboot of Fresh Prince. I realised it was already on a season 2, but
me either.
there it is. Apparently, it's doing all right for them. And then one cancellation I've got this week, which is Willow, which has been cancelled at Disney Plus after one season. Which, there's been a few comments recently from Disney and Marvel about putting out too much content and, maybe oversaturating things. And I wonder if, not that Willow's part of Star Wars or Marvel, but just the idea that, maybe one too many reboot shows is expensive.
It's possible. I think it's more just that I think it was quite expensive for what it was. And I think it didn't get quite the audience they were hoping for. And I think, honestly, as much as we're saying, they're slowing down with Marvel and Star Wars, it's still a safer bet for them to funnel that money into another Star Wars or Marvel show in the long run than it is to do a second season of something that's not performing very well.
I mean, yeah, no one's going to argue with you that a Marvel or Star Wars show will do better than a season of Willow.
Exactly.
I've never even seen the movie Willow.
No. Neither have I, which is surprising. It feels like something I'd like.
I mean, I'm sure Warwick Davis carries a high price tag when you get him on board for a show. I mean, he was the Lep after all, but...
Yeah. He's a cultural icon.
Is he? He's a cultural icon.
No, I think he actually is. Like, think of like a lot of the roles that he's in. He's pretty he's like pretty famous for a lot of his roles, and I think he can kind of get away. Like, he can command a pretty respectable price tag for depending on what the role is, because of.
I mean, I'm not saying he's
other actors.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's super cheap. He's just he's not an A-list star. Like, I like him. I thought he was great in Life's Too Short, the TV show.
Yeah, that was good.
But but yeah, so that's all the renewals and cancellations. Not a lot there to talk about. Similar, we got a couple of premiere dates. The first one being Outlander Season 7, which is going to premiere on June 16th. Notably, this is split in two halves this season, so it's 8 episodes starting June 16th, and there'll be 8 later on.
This is part 1, yeah.
This is part 1. And they already confirmed that Season 8 is the final season, so this is the start of the penultimate season.
Yeah, okay, cool. I've just slight tangent on this.
Okay.
The multiple parts of things is getting out of hand. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying it's getting out of hand first in anime, but this could be a harbinger of things to come, and I really hope it's not.
Anime has always been a bit different with the schedules, right?
No. This is just in terms of the way it's named, and like the seasons and the way they're counting them. So, Attack on Titan, I think it had 3 seasons, and then season 4 was marketed as the final season, and then there was then there was Attack on Titan, the final season part 2, and then it gets better. Attack on Titan, the final season part 3, part 1. They split the final season part 3 into 2 parts, and they literally just named it like that.
At least call it part final season part 3A. Just at least differentiate.
Yeah, it is the final season part 3, part 1. And then part 2, obviously.
I mean,
it's nuts, and I really hope that stays to anime.
Yeah, I don't think that the rest will follow suit. In the same way that comics are more complicated and they have to be, streamlined a bit for the movies and stuff. I feel the same ways here. Anime is allowed to be complex and impenetrable because anime fans are all nut jobs.
And it's somehow one of the most successful animes of all time.
Yes, that is laughable.
Yeah.
Other premiere date we have here is for The Diplomat, which is a Netflix show that is going to come out in April 20th, and this is 8 episodes. I've got a description here since, I didn't expect you know what this is.
Oh, and even if you did know what it was, by the time it comes out, what did you say, April 20th?
Yes.
So it'll be completely forgotten about by April 21st.
That sounds like the Netflix model, yes. The Diplomat is a high-stakes contemporary political drama about the transcendence and torture of long-term relationship between countries and people. I feel like that was like a weird political, professional, and personal.
I was just thinking that. Like, that was
interesting.
Vaguely familiar.
Interesting. It centers on Kate Weiler, played by Kerry Russell, the new US ambassador to the United Kingdom. She was supposed to go to Afghanistan, but she got the UK instead. Tough luck, Kerry. The new US ambassador to the United Kingdom. She was supposed to go to Afghanistan. She's great in a crisis zone. That's just one sentence on its own. There's just one sentence that says she's great in a crisis zone. And then next it's in a historic home, less so. I feel there's supposed to be a different punctuation there to make that.
That feels like a comma, yeah.
Yeah. A comma or maybe like a what? not a semicolon. The one that's got the that's a semicolon. Yeah,
It's
because
a semicolon. Yeah.
colon's the two dot. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
Anyway, war is brewing on one continent and boiling over on another. Kate will have to defuse international crises, forge strategic alliances in London, and adjust to her new place in the spotlight, all while trying to survive her marriage to fellow career diplomat and political star Hal Whaler.
I didn't even have to wait for that to finish. As soon as it started, that sentence, I know where this is going.
Part of me thought it might never go personal, but then it just went straight into marriage.
Just the way it started, that sentence was like, this is 100% doing it.
Oh, perfect. First drink of the day. For new audience members, Connor's got a few drinking rules for some of these plot descriptions. The most prominent one that comes up the most often, of course, is any variation of the professional and personal life. Yeah. All right. I have some general stuff. These are honestly quite quick. These things, but bit of casting for the Penguin. They've cast Theo Rossi in the show, who you might remember as Shades from Luke Cage.
You think I remember Luke Cage? Bloody hell.
I mean, I've seen him in other things since, which is why I remember him better. He was in Army of the Dead, and I just saw him in Emily the Criminal.
I'm sure I'd know him if I saw his face.
You probably would. There's not much to add.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's not much to add. There's just a little bit of casting. And then similar quick bit of news for another show to keep this kind of like in everyone's minds is Blade Runner 2099. They've got Jeremy Paduswa from Station 11 in Game of Thrones to direct the pilot and be a producing director on the show. So that's gearing up. And I don't remember actually it's saying it was a limited series. It probably was, and I've just forgotten. But that's interesting that they're going into it with, no, this is just going to be the 8 or 10 episodes or whatever it is, and that's it.
Yeah, I think we have noticed in the last few years, though, that there's been a more acceptance to, it's a limited series, but
if it does well,
I mean,
yeah.
If it does well, yeah. HBO have been pulling that a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not a season 2; it's a sequel. that's almost the attitude that's been taken.
I'm kind of okay with it though. I mean,
I don't mind it, but I will say the getting around the limited series category in the Emmys is a bit dodgy. Like I think that's playing the system.
No, it is. But ultimately, I think it. Obviously, I have room for TV that is long form. Just we're going to go 5 seasons. This is the plan. But also making sure that you get an ending at the end of every season. There's something nice to that.
Yeah.
Hey, if you get more, great. If you don't, you've still got a full story, and you can play that every season.
Oh yeah, for actually watching the shows, I really don't mind this. What would be interesting though is if it becomes this idea that it might get a sequel. If they start setting up the sequel like a movie sets up a movie sequel, at that point you're just a regular TV show because you're setting up for a season 2.
Yes.
Like that's when it becomes inverse and starts just sort of folding in on itself.
Can't say I've seen that yet, but obviously we've not watched all the examples of it. I can't say none of them have done it.
I just thought of that because I was comparing it to movie sequels, and I was like, yeah, but movie sequels sometimes try and set up the next one. Like, it's not uncommon for a movie to do that.
They do it, especially recently. Well, I say recently, the last like 10, 15 years. Yeah,
it's ever more common. I mean, the amount of like first entries in a series or franchise that went nowhere because it, fell out.
Because it was probably shit because they spent too much time setting up a sequel. That...
We're setting up our Secret 6, not a Secret, sorry, Sinister 6. We're setting up our Sinister 6. Secret 6 is DC. Apologies.
Yeah. They probably tried to set that up at some point. They've tried to set up everything behind the scenes in DC in the last decade.
Actually, yeah, male tangent here. The Rock was not looking good this week with all the shenanigans coming out. Do you know what's so funny is, like, you may not appreciate this quite as much, but everything about The Rock refusing to be associated with Shazam and saying, no, I want to be like Superman's foe in the movies and I want to center all around us. This is the most like backstage politicking of pro wrestling, like being brought into the movie. Because this was what Hulk Hogan was like. This was like, like, no, I'm not doing the job. I'm not losing. Like I need to, he's below my league. Like this is so wrestling. It's funny that he's done this because it's just so much from that world.
Yeah, I've heard from some other wrestling friends of mine that's kind of what's been going on. It is funny. I did see a tweet the other day so obviously for the new Shazam movie they redesigned the costumes, which is pretty normal on these movies at this point. Even though the costume was fine, right? I'd have said didn't need changing.
I've not seen the new movie, but it didn't look from the trailers that they'd like reinvented the wheel. Look, some minor adjustments.
They haven't. It's a change of like the the color of the fabric slightly, like the texture. It looks a bit more detailed, and the thing that is noticeable, the change is the lightning bolt, and it's smaller now, and it's like lit differently. And I saw a tweet being like, someone went 100%. The only reason that it's smaller is because The Rock said he has to have a smaller lightning bolt than me. And it's like, there's absolutely nothing to substantiate that whatsoever, but I'm willing to believe it.
It sounds possible. I know my final joke on the matter was that the Rock kept saying before the Black Adam came out that the hierarchy of power of DC was going to change, and I'm like, it did. You put James Gunn in a position of power. Congratulations.
Yep.
So yeah, I just thought that was funny. So last up in the general section here on the TV news is now this is not something we normally talk about, but this was never going to come up any other way. This was a show we talked about in the news shows, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was. But it was a Justin Hartley CBS show based in a book called The Never Game, and he plays this lone wolf survivalist, Coulter Shaw, who roams the country as a reward seeker using his expert tracking skills, blah 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 blah. Right, I don't have to read the whole thing. All the news is here that I wanted to say is that they decided to not use the name of because it was called The Never Game, right? And I think that's the thing it was based on, was called The Never Game. They've decided to change the title for the TV show.
Oh, it's going to be so much more generic, isn't it?
It's called Tracker.
Look, I'm not going to say The Never Game is the best title ever. It's fine.
It's better than Tracker.
It is. Like it's not like a terrible title, I don't think. The Never Game. It doesn't tell you what it's about, but that's fine. I think it's...
Yeah, I don't think a title needs to tell you what it's about.
No, I don't either, but it's unique enough that if you Google that, The Never Game, it's going to show up pretty easily. Right? Tracker.
The example I always give is Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs does not tell you a goddamn thing what that movie is, but the title's perfect, and you get that moment in the movie where you're like, I love that.
And maybe this show / book has that moment.
Oh yeah, maybe
with The Never Game. Well, we don't know. But I don't think it's a title that really grabs you, but it's fine. It was a perfectly acceptable title that there is no reason that they should have changed.
Titles are so much, just in general, I think they're worse. Like, I think about things like Nightmare on Elm Street. That's such a good title, but if it was made now, as a new IP now, it would probably just be called like Dream Killer. Like, it would be like the most. But A Nightmare on Elm Street is such a good title, but I feel like things don't get titled that way anymore.
No, I think it would just be simple. It would just be like Nightmare.
Yeah. Which is
like
sure
really bland and generic.
Yeah. I think about this sometimes, and that's one that not every title, obviously, in the old days is fancier or more complex, but there's ones like that.
I mean, even in the same genre, Halloween is not a complex title by any means. It's...
No, but it's simple. It's perfect. It
is. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad title. I'm just saying again, it goes against that rule that you were kind of advocating for there. That
said, I do wonder, like, would the original title of the Babysitter Murders or Babysitter Killer, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was something like that. I do wonder, like, would that have, but as the story goes that they just sort of checked, wait, has anyone ever actually titled their movie Halloween? Is that just sitting there waiting to be used? And it was like, oh, well, let's just, let's use
Why
that.
not? Yeah.
And of course, without Halloween, you don't have Friday the 13th. You don't have April Fool's Day. You don't have all these other horror movies that are just the day. Yeah. But anyway, all right. So at the comedies then for the TV shows, we have HBO developed a new comedy series called Disengagement from writer and executive producer Robin Thede from the Black Lady sketch show. Disengagement centers on a prestigious coal family, or the prestigious coal family, I should say, after a very public and embarrassing business implosion shattered their product, their perfect Midwest image. And it was just an image, because behind closed doors, even the dysfunction has dysfunction, proving family is the ultimate pyramid scheme. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's a comedy description.
Yeah.
Because I can see that as this, that dysfunctional setting kind of working out kind of nicely.
I think describing the family as a pyramid scheme is a nice enough play on words that gives me an idea of like the joke is going to, like the idea that the dad thinks he's the boss, the kids all treat him like he's the boss. I can kind of maybe picture what the comedy is going to come from. Next up, Terry Crews, obviously well known these days for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but amongst other things, is going to lead and also executive produce in a new comedy for CBS called JumpStart. All one word. It's a multi-camera comedy based on Rob Armstrong's long-running comic strip. Wayne Conley from The Best Man has written the TV adaptation, and it comes from Aaron Kaplan's Capital Entertainment, as well as Wendy Trilling's Thrill TV and CBS Studios. So Joe Cobb is a devoted husband, son, father, and Philadelphia police officer. He is also a proud black man and often feels pressured to be flawless in each of his roles, especially in light of controversies surrounding cops. He is charming and exuberant role model in his community. Joe loves his wife and family.
We're not the phrasing yet.
But does come up short in hilarious and endearing ways that keep the audience cheering for him. There was a lot of talk about his...
Yeah, but it didn't get the phrasing.
I suppose. But it feels precious to be flawless in each of his... You know, he's a son, father, and a police officer. That's gonna... this is interesting. Like I don't expect
he's playing a police officer again.
Yeah, like I was almost ready to roll my eyes, but then it specifically pointed out that it wants to deal with the controversies of the police, and I think that's interesting that he's tackling that. I don't know what to expect from a multi-camera CBS show tackling that subject, admittedly, but I do appreciate that it feels like it's got some noble intentions.
It does, and I will give him credit that the sitcoms have been better than the dramas for a while. But they haven't all been amazing, but they've been solid enough.
Okay. So I think that's interesting. Maybe it's like maybe the appeal of this for him is that, obviously towards the end of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the subject came up of like how do you handle cops on TV with more and more controversy around certain things, and
kind of why it came to an end ultimately is they're like, you know what, let's kind of just leave it here for now.
Yeah. So I do wonder if this was like this is maybe driven him to like, no, let's still tackle that subject, but do it with the focus on a different way. Curious. Next up, Fox is developing #1 Supreme Citizen of America.
I'm in.
It's a good title. You know what?
Yeah.
It immediately it catches your eyes. Like, okay, that's over the top. It's kind of silly.
They're not changing that one.
It's got personality. It's a single camera hybrid comedy from comedian Peter S. Kim. The comedy focuses on a USA-obsessed immigrant, Sun Min Kim, as he attempts to ace his upcoming citizenship test by hitting the road and learning what it means to be American from the multifaceted citizens of our expansive nation. Obviously, this was written by an American. Kim will also write and executive produce the comedy.
What does it mean by hybrid comedy? Because the only thing I can think of the way that's phrased is like Borat-esque.
Oh, I don't know. I think
would be incredibly bold for them to do on network TV.
So I'm not leaping to that because I don't think they would do that on Fox.
I don't either, but that was the only thing that kind of made sense to me.
So I think that the hybrid comedy maybe it's like single camera, but maybe there's like set pieces that are multi-camera or something. Maybe that's what it's getting at. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
It doesn't sound terrible though.
No. I think honestly the title gives me its personality. Like it's got character just from that title. So that's a good title because it's, when you find out it's about someone who's trying to prove that he's American because he's an immigrant, the title makes a lot more sense, and you can see as a comedy all the wacky hijinks of him like, I'm super American, look at me, I love eagles and shit. And
learning all the stereotypes from different places in the country. Yeah, no, I can see that being, I can see this being fun.
Yeah, freedom!
Yeah.
Which, they kind of rob from Braveheart, let's be honest. It's kind of a Scottish thing as well.
I mean, yeah, but...
just point out.
But they have guns and you don't, so they win.
To be fair, Braveheart was set in, like, what? 1000 AD or something like that? I don't know. 1200 AD? I don't know.
It's gotta be late. It's gotta be later than...
Is it later than that?
1000s. It has to be.
I don't know my old history. So I have no idea.
Not enough to date it off the top of my head.
No. I'll say about 1300. I'll go about there. That's my guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yes. The proud Scottish film starring an Australian and an Irishman.
Ooh, not a terrible guess.
Oh, really? What is it?
1280.
Hey, that's not bad. I'll take that. 20,
Yeah.
Hey, 20 years out when I had like 2,000 years roughly.
I knew it was like I said after like the 10. I knew it was post 1066. I knew it was post the Norman Conquest. I was like, after that, I'm not 100%.
Well. Next up, so we're on to the Jim Henson Company and Marble Media are using. So there's no title for this, so it's kind of awkwardly done here because I don't have a title to give it to you. So untitled, but it's a comedy to talk about children's mental health. They're teaming with Felix, a live-action comedy about a boy, his family, and his feels. 5 original characters created by Fraggle Rock and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio maker Jim Henson, his Creature Shop, will manifest the larger-than-life emotions. The emotions live in his house, follow him to school, and eat his snacks. But once he joins a school for neurodivergent kids, he learns to live with them. So it's it's kind of Inside Out, I guess, but with like puppets or animatronics.
Yeah.
Representing the emotions. So you can kind of see what they're going for with this, I think.
Yeah. My only problem is, this is a weird hang-up, but thanks to British advertising, whenever I hear Felix, I just think of cat food, and I just think of the cat in the adverts.
Do you buy Felix for your cat?
I do not, but it is an advert that I remember, variations upon from.
What cat food did you get for your cat?
Lilies, I think.
I don't think I know Lilies.
Yeah,
my cat's like the Felix. That's what they're into.
Yeah, I mean, he got bored of his wet food at one point. We had to swap it for a different one.
I tried Whiskers a few times, but they never really took to the Whiskers.
He has Whiskers for the the dental bite things. Like he gets those. But yeah.
Oh yeah, Wesker. The other two don't really care about them that much, but the Wesker loves the little like cat-shaped tub with the treats, the little crispy things with the center. He loves those. Goes gaga for them. Anyway, aye. So there's an animated thing I think here last in this section. Fox Entertainment and Bento Box are developing an animated comedy called Havoc, all caps, from veteran television writer Michael Glauberman and CRE8 4U. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I'm assuming Create for You? Yeah, probably. Create for You. That's probably what it's meant to be said. The production company that co-founded by Nancy Cartwright, who's worked on The Simpsons, Monica Gil Rodriguez, and Jamie Amrick. So, Havoc is described as a story of a brilliant, egotistical supervillain who starts from scratch in his latest attempt to take over the world, forming a ragtag team of eccentric misfits to help him on his quest. Together, they navigate the challenges of the world around them, which is far more difficult when you're working out of the basement of your one-bedroom apartment. So it's a supervillain upstart animated comedy.
Yeah.
Pinky in the Brain. Or
I was thinking that.
Yeah, something like that. Sure. I have no problems. So we're out of the dramas then. We do have a pretty interesting one to start off with. So the Homeland co-creator, executive producers of Howard Gordon and Alex, I said that's because I say Alexa. Alex Ganza are working on another show for Showtime, which is where Homeland was also based. They're working on a show based on Gattaca, the 1997 movie starring Ethan Hawke and Jude Law, Uma Thurman.
Absolute masterpiece of a movie.
It's fantastic. It is a fantastic movie. We did it on the Ace during the autumn, I think, last year. Still holds up. Wonderful, right? It's only gotten better every time I've seen it. It's a great little film. So, yeah. Written by Gordon, Ganza, and Craig Barton, the series takes place a generation after the events of the film. So it's, I don't know if it'll refer back to it. Maybe it'll tell us in a second, but it is set a little bit later. When science and humanity have evolved to the point where we can direct our own evolution, genetic engineering has created a world in which parents can determine the future of their children before they are born, aka the Valids, which by default has created a new underclass, no longer determined by social status or the color of one's skin. The Invalids. The Invalids. I think in the movie they might say invalid, though. I think that's why I said it that way.
Yeah, because it's not invalid in this case. It's specifically invalid. The opposite of valid. Yeah.
So, yeah, the movie's great. It's a great movie. Sort of like recontextualize. Obviously, it's all an analogy for actual discrimination, but it it does it in a way where all of a sudden it's a different social structure based on genetics rather than, you know.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've seen the movie now. Is it specifically genetic engineering that lets them choose the children's features, or is it more this is what they're going to be, so this is where we have determined?
Well, it's both. So some parents want a natural birth. They want to do things naturally, and so in the movie they have Ethan Hawke first, and he's like, he's got a high chance of like heart disease by the time he's like 40. So he's kind of seen as like undesirable by employers because he's probably going to die young. Yeah. And then his older brother, because they had that sort of failure, they had a second kid, but they can choose to engineer him to be perfect before he's born. So, and the whole idea of the movie is obviously equality, but also this idea that everyone should have a fair chance, and that the determination and science just saying something's not possible. It's about saying F you know it is possible if you believe it enough. You know, it's a very inspirational film. It's got a lot of good social commentary. Fantastic music in that as well.
So good.
It's really great stuff. I highly recommend Gattaca. A series set in that world does sound interesting. I'm glad they're not trying to do the characters from the movie. I'm glad they're just,
I saw the headline for this the other day, and I was concerned, thinking, how do you stretch that? I mean, you can stretch that out, but does it need stretching out and retelling? But just taking the concept of the world and kind of just telling other stories in it. Yeah, no, I'm very open to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong, I suspect that the main plot of season 1 might be something similar to the movie, and that it's someone trying to trick the system into thinking that he's healthy when he's, an invalid.
It's very possible. Yeah. But as long as it's not the exact same beats, the same characters, the same relationships, I can see this being, well made, potentially. What was this?
Showtime? Yeah.
All right, so it should have a budget.
Showtime, I think they probably want a big hit in their hands. I don't know what their last big hit was. Obviously, they're kind of clinging to Dexter to try keep afloat right now. But maybe this could be one of their big sort of.
It should have a reasonable budget, and I don't think Gattaca needs an extreme budget.
No,
a lot of the world, it's a very sanitized world. It's very minimalist looking.
Yeah, it's a very sort of like. I think the movie literally starts with the phrase that the not too distant future. It's not like a specified time. It's just this is around the corner. This is just a little bit ahead.
Yeah, so it's not like it's super crazy in terms of its design and aesthetics. That'll need a lot of work. They'll need some, obviously, but no more than most shows.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it could be good. It could be interesting to see what they do with that. All right, next up we have The Perfect Couple, which is a Netflix limited series. We got a bunch of casting for this. So Nicole Kidman has joined us, as has Liev Schreiber, White Lotus actor Megan Fahey, as well as Dakota Fanning, and they're all in various stages of negotiations, is the exact terminology here, to star in The Perfect Couple in Netflix. This was originally something that was set up at Fox a couple of years ago, but at some point it's moved to Netflix. And they've sort of been gearing up since last August to sort of get it going. It's based on the best-selling novel of the same name by Ellen Hilderbrand, which was published in 2018. It's a 6-episode murder mystery following Nantucket native Celeste Otis, who on the 4th of July is about to marry the perfect man, who just so happens to be from the wealthiest family in the area. But when a body is discovered floating in the harbour on the morning of what was meant to be #wedding of the year, everyone at the party is suddenly a suspect.
Okay, it's a murder mystery.
Murder mystery, but a reasonably interesting cast.
That's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah. It's a sort of thing where I could see it being quite dry, but I could see it being
Depends. If it's a satirical take on that style of person, that culture, I can see that kind of being, potentially quite amusing alongside being a murder mystery.
I mean, they point out that it's the wealthiest family, and the hashtag use does imply a little bit of a jab, a little bit of a sense of humor, but I think it's, 6-episode complete story makes me more interested, I think, in this than, it's a season that's got a murder mystery, but there may be a season 2. I think this being a limited thing actually makes it more appealing than if it wasn't.
I agree.
So
yeah,
that's cool. FX is developing a drama series called Drug Spies from Noah Pink, who wrote the screenplay for the upcoming Tetris movie at Apple.
Which at the end of this month, I think, right?
Yeah, which was good. I actually almost put that in the pilot vote, thinking it was a TV show. Last month, and then just at the last second, like I looked at it and went, "Oh, it's a movie." But yeah. So author Kirk Wallace Johnson and the Falcon Winter Soldier director Carrie Skoglund are working on this as well. It's an original series which is inspired by true events, tells the stories of spies who work on behalf of multinational drug companies. Well, some of the plot deals have been kept under wraps. We hear, this is Deadline speaking, we hear the character-driven series tells the story of two former CIA Special Forces soldiers who are dispatched by the Big Pharma to take down the most prominent genetic drug producer in the world. It's my Resident Evil brain, but I see Big Pharma and I just see the Umbrella logo like in
That's
my
fair.
head.
I'm also TV-ifying this and assuming the two spies are actually in a relationship and there's going to be some personal and professional conflict between them as they're doing the job.
Very possible. It doesn't say that in the description, but
it doesn't,
very
because
possible.
Because it's not an official description.
That's true.
But
That's true.
You wait till that official description comes out for this, and I guarantee you it does.
You're very right. This is sort of Deadline, just sort of describing it in their own words. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Amazon's moving forward with a series adaptation of E. Lockhart's novel We Were Liars. They've handed the project straight to series order, and it's focused on the theme of consequences of one mistakes. The series follows the wealthy, seemingly perfect Sinclair family who spend every summer sitting gathered on their private island. There's a lot of exploring the rich these days, isn't there?
No. It's all eat the rich.
Oh, sure. Well, we'll see where this goes. This may not be eating the rich yet. The wedding one might be eating the rich. Like, they may all fall apart because of that murder, but we'll see what this goes. However, not every year is the same. When something happens to Cadence during the summer of her 15th year, she and the other three liars, Johnny, Gat, and Mirren, re-emerge 2 years later and prompt Cadence to remember the incident. Okay, that's a very, very mysterious and vague the way they worded that. Okay.
It is, yeah.
I have no idea what the tone of this is going to be, so it's hard to be excited, but...
Yeah, that's something that needs a trailer, I think.
It's Amazon, so I'd say 80% chance it's probably just kind of dull looking, 20% chance, maybe that looks interesting. That'd be my odds.
That's good fair. 80-20 is the go-to ratio.
Because I think a lot of Amazon stuff does come off a little bit dull, but every so often they've got a boys or they've got,
I
a
quite
Homecoming.
enjoyed the Lord of the Rings show, I know you didn't care for it, but I enjoyed it.
I feel like even the response from fans of Lord of the Rings though was kind of mixed and lukewarm to that show.
I don't think it was the best show. I think it had two very, very, very good episodes. I think most of it was like, yeah, this is perfectly enjoyable, reasonable, decent TV. And then the last episode was like, yeah, that was pretty predictable. You've kind of been hyping this up all season. It was a predictable reveal, but okay, sure.
That's interesting. Well, it's not. I just said that as a kind of auto response because I don't know what else to say to you. Let's move on to the next story, shall we? So, we're looking at a show called One Day in December. This is indie filmmaker Drake Doremus from Like Crazy, making his first major move into TV with One Day in December, which is in development on Netflix, and it has Lucy Boynton attached to star and executive producer. I do quite like her, actually, because she was in The Black Coat's Daughter, which is also known as February, I think, in the UK, which I thought was a really good horror movie. It's Oz Perkins directed it, Anthony Perkins' son, who also went on to direct Gretel and Hansel. Anyway, I liked her in that. People liked her in Sing Street, and it says here she was in Bohemian Rhapsody. I never saw that, but
it was okay.
Yeah. So it's a romantic drama series based on the Josie Silver novel of the same name. Here's the description. So tells the story of Laurie, who is pretty sure love at first sight doesn't exist anywhere but the movies. But then, can you see where this is going? Through
I think I can.
Through a mistied up bus window one snowy December day, she sees a man who she knows instantly is the one. Their eyes meet. There's a moment of pure magic, and then her bus drives away. Laurie subsequently, thank you, spends a year or so scouring London in search of the missing man. His name is Jack, she learns, when he's finally introduced to her at a Christmas party as the new boyfriend of her best friend Sarah. What follows for Laurie, Sarah, and Jack per Random House is 10 years of friendship, heartbreak, missed opportunities, roads not taken, and destinies reconsidered. Just nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, I know. I hate this.
It sounds like absolute shite.
Yes, it does.
Not for us, certainly.
No.
It would be a more fair statement, but I just, no. I was just hoping it just added on something professional at the end, just to give you the...
Yeah, just to spite me.
Yeah, it's just at the end, just tag on, all of this while she's working at her clothes shop.
Which is probably true.
Yes. All right, well, last up on the news this week then. Christopher Reich's Simon Riske book series is in development at Netflix. They're reteaming with Edward Berger, who is the director, co-writer, and producer of last year's All Quiet on the Western Front, which was quite... I've not seen it yet, but it did quite well at the awards ceremonies and stuff like that. Got them a lot of buzz. So he's working on this new drama series adaptation. Berger's set to direct the international spy thriller. It's an early development at Netflix, specifically in the UK, which has been written by Rowan Joff from Tin Star and The Informer. The first season will focus on the first book in the series, The Take. So there's multiple books, so there's a chance for multiple seasons. So it doesn't actually say what they're going to call the show. They may just call it Simon Riske, because that's what the series of the books is called, but it sounds a bit dull, so maybe they'll
just call it Risk.
God, that's even more boring.
It is more boring, but you know I'm right.
Yeah. Described as being in the vein of Day of the Jackal and The Bourne Identity, The Take centres on Simon Riske, a freelance industrial spy. Riske lives largely under the radar above his auto garage in London until he gets involved in the chase for a stolen letter that could upend the balance of power on the Western world, set against the backdrop of the greatest street heist in the history of Paris. Honestly, that last part made it far more interesting than the rest of it did.
It did. It sounded just, generic spy thing, which doesn't necessarily mean it'll be bad. It means it won't be for you, but it doesn't mean it'll be bad. But that last bit gave it a little bit of flair. Yeah,
it's something else going on. And I didn't translate garage for the Americans because it's set in London, so garage was correct.
So screw you.
I mean, maybe this is the sort of thing. Like, there's so many bland spy shows that, like, I need to see a good trailer before I can even feel a blip of excitement.
There are very few good spy shows.
Yes. Can you name me one?
No.
Well, there you go. Then
I'm going to remember one as soon as we finish recording now.
I believe it can happen. I believe, I wouldn't say I like crime shows, but, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are technically crime shows. So they'll be...
Oh, Joe, I did see some news earlier about a show that you definitely don't like. Do you remember Taboo? The Tom Hardy Mumble one?
Which was a shame because the director did a movie that I loved, but...
They're finally working on a second season.
We did the pilot of that like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I just thought there was never getting a second season. I thought it was done.
Oof. Tom Hardy's going to be like a walker, this season 2. That's how much time has passed. Bloody hell.
They'll work that into the plot. Don't worry about it. It'll be a distinguished gentleman with a cane.
Bloody hell, that's just madness. Yeah, so there you go. I told you it was a quieter week or so for news. Gattaca being the one big thing I'd say was notable, but otherwise kind of light. I suppose we could talk a little bit about Lance Reddick passing away. That's worth bringing up. I don't typically put deaths like in the news per se, but Lance is very prolific, and he's died quite young suddenly. He was only 60, and it was shocking to read last week when it came up. And I saw an article.
I don't know if the cause has been released yet.
I don't think so.
I haven't seen anything. It seemed to have been a fairly big shock because he seemed to be like, all the posts were like, hey, he was still just like chilling and gaming last night.
Yeah. It does say the early reports are saying it looks natural. There's nothing, suspect about it.
Obviously, it happens.
Yeah. But there was an article on Deadline actually as I was looking for the news, which was basically just, hey, here's all the things Lance Reddick is already filmed that are still to come out, and there's like 5 things. Like John Wick 4's out, this weekend, but he's in like the Percy Jackson show playing Zeus that's coming out later this year.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
And he's got like 3 other movies. Yeah, so he's got like 3 other movies coming. Like, obviously, The Wire, fantastic. I first saw him in Lost. He was great in his small role in that. That sort of led him to be in Fringe, which obviously I love, and he's great in that too. But even in like bad stuff, he's kind of the highlight. Like that awful Resident Evil show that came out last year. Like he's pretty. He's Wesker in that show.
Yeah, you can tell I didn't pay attention to that show.
But he does actually eke out some entertainment. Not the entertainment I wanted from that Resident Evil thing, but entertainment all the same.
The problem, clearly.
Yeah. I
know he's pretty beloved in the Destiny fan base.
Oh yes, yeah, does the voice. He's in the Horizon games as well.
Yeah.
Very prolific. He's one of those guys where I think most people discovered him gradually in the 2000s, but the last decade or so he's just been all over the place, and everyone always likes to see him. He's always a nice, pleasant face to pop up in anything. So it was quite a shame to just get that sudden news last week. It was just out of nowhere. I just saw someone say, "Oh, it's sad to hear about Lance Reddick." I went, "What are you talking about? What's wrong with Lance Reddick?" And quickly searched and found the bad news. So yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, it does suck, but yeah. Well, at least there's a few performances left to enjoy, and you can guarantee you will enjoy them.
Yes, and yeah, at least one or two of them are actually stuff that not that it would really matter if they're all bad things or all things that I didn't care about, but like at the very least, John Wick 4, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy when I see it. And I'm next week.
Obviously, you're not, but I'm very excited for the Percy Jackson show.
The reason why I say that though is because we have one last Kevin Conroy performance to look forward to, and it's like wrapped up in the worst possible thing ever.
Yeah, won't be his fault
though. No. So yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. So yeah. R.I.P. to Lance Reddick. It was sad to hear. So sorry to end the episode on a bit of a downer. But it was either that or start with it.
Yeah, but better to get at the end.
Yeah. So by all means in the comments, let us know your favorite Lance Reddick roles, moments, all that stuff. Feel free to share them. But that'll do the show for this week, and I'm hoping that we'll be back on a relatively just weekly schedule with this now. Car's moved house finally. We're recording at a sort of normal day for it. So
yeah, we're kind of getting back on track.
Yes, so hopefully we should be back with you next weekend again. Unless of course there's just not enough news, which does happen from time to time, but we'll see how it goes. But let us know what you thought of the news items this week in the comments, like, subscribe, and of course you can support all the content by hitting the super thanks button, or of course on a more permanent basis by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there and getting some bonuses for your trouble. But that is the show, that is the news this week. Thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?